Maybe.
All right. We get a folder. Oh yeah.
Yes, it did it before it died. So the first thing we're gonna kind of start with is kind of just a kind of our model, right? And I think not only will this kind of give a demonstration of containers, right? Because it's kind of the goal of the whole presentation, but to kind of give you at least kind of how I sometimes model my applications, especially when I'm working with you know, things like Quill and stuff of that nature, when I'm talking about like kind of multiple domains, like you have your database domain and your app domain, but we'll get to that. So we kind of have our models here, and these are our application models. So what do we need to be able to be wizard? So I think the first thing we need is, you can't have a wizard without a spell. So let's create a spell. So please go.
I always get a little thrown off with the VS Code. First, you select your type.
Yeah, it gets me too. And I've been using it for a very long time, so, or for a reasonable amount of time, I guess. That's a spell, right? So this is our spell class, right? So our spells generally have a name. Our spells have, let's see, they have a level, like what level are they? Like how difficult are they to, you know, cast our spells? See, what else do we have? We would have a description of our spell, which would be, kind of tell us what the spell is and about. And we also have, apparently people have been writing a lot of spell code in Copilot, because I've been getting all kinds of recommendation for spell school and things of that nature. It's actually quite comical. And I think the last thing, just to keep it simple, is our spells will have a type of effect. You know, what do our spells do, right? So yeah, that's our spell. Oh, it's spiel.
Spiel.
It's a spiel.
Your spell spiel.
And maybe we want to at least get this kind of started off, right? So we would need some spells. Maybe we want to organize our spells by their level. So we'll call this third level. Start with third level, I know. So there it is. Apparently somebody's really been working hard on this, because it's actually got the correct level for all of these D&D spells. So we're gonna just stick with Fireball for now. That is correct. It is a level 3 spell, and it
burns.
I'd imagine. It does burn. I actually have, and like I said, I kind of I've vetted this already, so I prefer this. Oh, hold on a second. I get it right here. And prefer this. This is much better for spell. I mean, if you're gonna be a wizard, you might as well go all the way.
That's nice. Right?
So I installed many emoji plugins for VS Code today. So yeah. So
you're a showman. You're a natural showman.
It's just like, what if you don't have that flair, right? Okay, so we've kind of got a model. So, well, when we have a model, let's kind of talk about, well, what are we going to do with a basic model, right? We need to store it somewhere, right? Because there's going to be some type of, you know, usually a persistence when you're talking about, like, and this is going to be like kind of a simple kind of CRUD where we may not even get as far as the U and the D, but there will be a C and an R, I promise. So yeah, we have our spell model. So usually kind of the way I think of breaking things apart is I break it into kind of a DAO that kind of represents the kind of lower level actions in terms of what you want to do with your model. And then a higher level kind of app or service layer that kind of can take one or more pieces of a DAO and kind of combine them together to accomplish your kind of your wizardly logic. We'll call it wizard logic instead of business logic, just because we're going to try to stay with the theme here. So I think the next thing we're going to do then is we're going to talk about, let's create a folder here, and we're just going to call it DAO. And we are going to call our DAO, let's see what we're going to call it. started. And it's going to be an object. We'll call it spells as a plural of our domain object. So, I neglected to mention, and maybe I should, is kind of the weapons of choice that we're going to be using for this is right now Scala 3, ZIO 2.0, and kind of why I wanted to mention this is I'm actually using ProtoQuill, which is the Scala 3 version of Quill, to do all the kind of database operations. So yeah, I'm going to start bringing in stuff from that. So to build our DAO. So the first thing we would want to do, let's see here, is we will import things here. Let's do import get Quill. And we're gonna do.
Yeah, I haven't used Protocol yet. So
It's pretty similar. There were some things that I ran into that was different in terms of like insert meta. I ran into some weird things. So we're gonna first thing we want to do is we're just gonna call it insert spell. I know that doesn't sound very wizardly, but we will leave the wizardly naming for our application model.
I think we want a def.
Oh,
I think we want a def in there.
right.
Gotta draw a little wizard though.
A little wizard defining it. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I hopefully the Quill stuff. I think we done Alexander's done a Quill Zymposium. I think so. Hopefully this won't be too far beyond people's kind of understanding. I'm going to keep it simple so I can explain what's going on here. So basically this is it kind of our insert, right? We're gonna quote and query, and again, I don't think I have the time span nor the expertise to explain this correctly. So basically, let's just understand that what this is going to do, that it's going to take our model object, and it understands how to break our model object into enough little bits and pieces to create an insert statement into the database. And I think I'm gonna kind of leave it on that without trying to get too deep into Quill's innards and how quoted DSLs work and stuff like that. So we have that spell, but this is going to break because we don't have a spell. Oh, one thing we will have to create as well. Here, let's find package object.
And by the way, we've been getting a couple of questions. I just want to let everyone.
Yeah, let's go ahead and stop the questions. Please
well,
stop.
they're sort of. I don't want to break the flow, so I'm collecting them.
Okay.
Lose them because luckily I don't have the live code today. It's awesome. Thank you, Scott. So I'm to collect all the questions, and we'll ask them at the end.
You're welcome. I think
they're very relevant to what we're talking about, but they're more like higher level. We'll see.
Okay. So we need so this is also kind of a somewhat of a boilerplate or a need when you're putting together your Quill stuff. You kind of have to give it a context, which kind of defines kind of the semantics of the database you're going to be working against. Basically, this says we're going to be working against Postgres. We're using ZIO, which means all of our return types from running our queries and our actions are going to be wrapped in a ZIO. And snake case just says when we're converting the name of both our table names and our attribute or column names, we're going to take them and move them from like camel case into snake case. So that's the long and short of what that does.
One other thing that maybe is worth mentioning in case anyone uses Quill is that by default, it does not escape the names you use. So if you try to create tables like user or group, which I did for my a while ago when doing a test application, those will be seen as like Postgres keywords. So there's something called like naming context you need to add, and you need to tell it to escape all literals or something like this. It's in the docs, but if anyone's run into that problem, it's a good default to throw on there so you don't accidentally name a keyword after something.
Yeah, I fortunately didn't run into that issue. So
yeah, spell is not a Postgres keyword, I don't believe.
No, and I think by choosing this as my as my domain to work on probably really reduced the amount of conflicts I would run into. So, I mean, there's that. So we have Hogwarts, and we just kind of bring that in, and that'll give us all the things we need, but we still don't have, we still need to bring in our spell. Now, what we could do is usually when we define a row in a database, we're going to have things like foreign keys and IDs and stuff like that. Well, you'll notice I don't really have that in there. And I really don't want to put that in the application domain level of my object. So what I'll usually do is I will do this. We'll do another folder under models. And we're going to call it DB. Now this does, I'll admit, gets a little bit boilerplatey, and you could honestly go with your model being kind of flattened out, but I do like and I think it's kind of good for demo purposes too. It kind of splits the domain between, here's your application domain and your app domain. So we're also going to we're just going to call it spell as well. And it is going to have all the same thing as, because you see this can feel a little bit boilerplatey and stuff like that.
Except also an ID, yeah. Oh, I see where you're going.
So we have a long, yeah, I think you'll see where I'm going with this. So now we can get back to developing our spells here. So we just go ahead and import our Hogwarts models. It always wants to do that. DB spell. Now we have a spell. There we go. Insert spell. What is it saying? Don't know. My def lift spell. Is it? Oh.
Insert value.
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah. Again, I worked on this a little bit beforehand, so I kind of know all the little tricksy hobbits that kind of lurk between the red squid. So we're going to have, I think starting out, we're going to keep it really, I don't even think I need an inline here. If Alexander was here, he would be able to tell us exactly what we need to do. I think we're going to keep it simple starting out. We're going to get spell by name. String. There we go. Oh, I saw those red squiggles and I thought stop.
I guess yes, successfully.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm like, wow, those don't look like the extremely uniform VS Code red squiggles. So yeah, we've got this, and this is basically kind of what, at least in my opinion, I think just like with all different terms and domain-driven design, or talking about DAOs, you could say, yeah, that's a DAO. No, it's not a DAO. So you'll notice when we, getting back to kind of quilting, when we do these quoted query things, these actually aren't, you can think of them almost as like kind of what ZIO is, or kind of a description of kind of an SQL query we're going to run, right? And at this point, they're not wrapped in ZIO, which I don't know if we'll really get to it in this demo, because I didn't really plan to. But the nice thing about by keeping it like different levels like this as your kind of DAO layer and then a service layer, we can take these queries and kind of compose them together, right? Whereas if you're immediately kind of wrapping and executing them inside of ZIOs, you don't have that ability. So yeah, so this is our data. This is our spells, right? So I think now the next thing to do, and I promise we're getting very close to actually working with the containers for testing. So kind of what we probably should do now is create our actual database schema for this. So I'm going to create a file here real quick.
Yeah, I think this is also very useful to watch from scratch, because at the beginning there are all these little patterns. Like you have to have the application conf in the right folder. You've got to how do you create your migrations, in what format, how do you run them?
Yeah, it was kind of, it is in its, I think it was hard. Like at one point I go, I could make it like super short and sweet, and we could just jump to doing like test containers, right? But
Right,
I
that's the
think
magic. Yeah.
the journey is worth as much as kind of the destination, if you will.
Totally.
So yeah, we're just gonna call this. We're not going to get really creative with it. We're just gonna call it v 1.0 underscore underscore initial SQL. I'm going to take a minute because this is kind of, and I'm going to go ahead and populate what we need to do stuff in here. I'm just going to copy and paste it. I'm not going to code it all out by hand. So what we've got here is just a really simple schema. We're calling it Zogwarts, and we're going to create it, and we're going to create our spell table. So the one thing I kind of want to just touch on real quick is like, okay, oh, you know what? Actually, I'm doing this in the wrong spot. So this is all important. This naming convention that I'm doing here is fairly important. And let me touch on this real quick because I think it's fairly helpful. Testcontainers has a submodule in it that you can bring in, which we're going to be using in here, which for doing your database containers is incredibly helpful. And I can't see just using containers without actually being able to run migrations against it to do your tests. So what we've got here is, you'll notice this is resources. If people, I'm sure everybody understands, and in the Scala world, you know, everything under the resources gets added to the class path. And you'll notice we've added this directory here, db/db/migration. The underpinnings, what kind of drives the migration aspect that I'm going to be showing that's part of the Testcontainers project, is Flyway. So I don't know how many people are familiar with Flyway. Flyway has an opinionated naming convention and the location of, you know, where it's going to by default look for its migration scripts. And the way it does is it looks for something with a capital V, and this is actually configurable, but I think that's outside of the the scope of this discussion. If you want to learn more about doing all that kind of stuff, you can actually look at the Flyway documentation. So you need to do V and then usually a number, and this gives your kind of will help you with kind of ordering the order of your migration scripts, then 2 underbars, and then just some name.sql, right? And it uses this, it ends up recording these in a migration table. It will write the hash out there. So if you change one of these scripts and you've already run it before, it will cause it to say, hey, you're trying to run a script with a different thing. So those are some little here's and there's about Flyway, but needless to say, this is kind of what you need it to look like if you want the default database DB migration aspect to kind of run your stuff for you. So you see, this is really small here. We are creating a schema if it doesn't exist, and we're creating our table. So that right there is enough for us to actually start doing our container level tests. So is this a spot that we need to answer any questions before we get started, or?
I don't think we have any questions about this stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, good to keep going. Except Bill was curious: are we in Middle Earth or Hogwarts? Pick a lane.
So Hogwarts is somewhat similar, but legally distinct from certain other properties and IPs. So I was going to do it. Like I said, I don't know how far we're going to get into this with how much data we're going to get in. We may not get past spells, right? But like I was going to do all kinds of wizards. Like, you know, you'd have like you could have Harry, but then he'd be Jerry. And then you'd have like Elminster from Dungeons and Dragons, but he could be Elmunster. You know, I'm just trying to keep this safe. So
we appreciate it. We do not want to get sued here at Zymposium.
We don't want to cease and desist. We don't want a DMC takedown on this.
Nope, we do not.
So, so yeah, let's see. We're going to get our tests up now.
Well, there is one question
Okay.
that relevant to this exact
sure.
time, which is there a specific reason for picking Flyway over Liquibase? I've never heard of Liquibase, but I'm assuming maybe
I have heard of Liquibase. I've never used it. I've used Flyway for many, many years, and I've been happy with it. And I have very little experience with Liquibase, but one thing I think Liquibase, it is not JVM based. Somebody correctly me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I've seen people say Liquibase Flyway. I like it works well, especially in the Scala ecosystem, because as you'll be able to see, this all can run within a JVM container. I don't have to tell you, oh, you need to install Liquibase on your system before this work. This is very self-contained, right? Flyway is just a jar that's pulled down from Sonatype, right? From the Nexus repo. There's no additional configuration or anything. I can see, and I would be like more than happy to accept somebody contributing a variant DB migration that is based around Liquibase, right? Then there again, like I said, I picked it because I had a lot of experience with it, and I think there's a lot of benefits with it running in the JVM and being consolidated in a jar. So
sounds good.
Is that good?
I think everyone accepts that answer.
Cool.
Uh,
All right, let's get our folder set up. Scala folders. So there we are. So there's our Zarworks DAO. So just so I can see, go ahead. Object, and this will be our spec. Names. ZIO. There we go. I didn't need to do that. All right, so sure, why not? We'll start with that. We'll do the whole insert. So we are going to go ahead and we would since we're going
By
to
the way, if this is ZIO2, I don't think we need test M. We could just do test.
Oh, why did it do that?
Yes.
Yeah, that wasn't that's what
For magic, probably.
GitHub Copilot's trying to make me look like a fool, so it's okay.
It'll get the news soon.
So insert, and we should be able to do spells. Insert spell. Now we don't have a spell, but we can make a spell. So I'm gonna do spell.
Oh wow!
What's that? Oh yeah, I was wanting to. Let's see.
Write a novel. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't.
I think
like-
you do have one in the companion object, right? Or maybe not for the DB.
I do. Well, not in the DB. So that's a good point. Maybe we can go and say, well, we don't want to have to redo things. So what we can do first, before we even get this far, is we can go into models, into DB, and go into spell, and do this. And we do spell. We could have easily just done this manual. There you go.
Hey, not bad though. Yeah, it's always this difficulty between. I mean, you want to reuse one data type because they're so close, but then you get this awkward thing where you have to sort of come up with it. I think you need a colon at the end of line 7 before a spell.
Line 7.
Yeah, after the parentheses. Yeah. There you go. Yep.
Sweet.
There we go.
Maybe models.
Yeah, we need to import it.
But yeah,
I don't have a wingman to do my imports. So
Hey, if you want to invite us.
Next time, next time if you invite us, we'll
so
Yeah.
oh, this is app spell. All right. So it's interesting. So I want to let's just want to do this. Oh no.
But yeah, we're from a different IP. We're like vampires. You have to invite us in before we can
Oh yeah, no.
start dealing with your code.
If we have a necromancy school of spells, then we could summon someone in. So sorry. Anyway, you'll notice like I've kind of done this by hand. What I wanted to do is I want to showcase a library that I've used a lot and that I love called Chimney, that actually will do automatically figure out how to map domain objects, especially if they're so close together like this. It's really easy. It's much less boilerplate, and unfortunately, Chimney does not have a version that supports Scala 3. I discovered that late last night. So unfortunately, I have to do this by hand. But if anybody's still on Scala 2 and you're having to do like domain mappings, check out Chimney. It's a really amazing, quality of life type of thing. So
Yeah, it's great. Hopefully they do a Scala 3 thing soon.
I was almost tempted to think about doing it myself.
It is a very complicated macro library.
Oh, it's true. Does it? It does have a lot of macros.
A
It's
lot.
all macros, and it's very
never mind then.
very fancy.
Oh my gosh, it really does want to make a huge thing. So let's do the spell row there. We're going to call it spell. Just call it spell. So spell, and we know we already have. Let's do an import here. Small.
People are saying there is Liquibase for as a Java lib as well.
Okay. Well, maybe
do
it's something I'll check out, or if somebody else wants to check it out and feel like they want to donate it, that would be awesome.
Oh yeah, I'll link to it at the end. Your library on GitHub.
Fireball. There we go. So now that was kind of a roundabout way to do it, but it kind of shows you how to go from kind of one. And honestly, if we get to actually doing the service layer stuff, you can see how you would do something that would go the opposite direction from the DAO model into or the DB model into your app model. So again, this is kind of one of my ways, and it may be a little bit anal, and people are like, oh, why would you even bother with that? But what I chose, and I'm presenting. So
I think it's good design. I mean, it takes a little more upfront effort, but
it does. It's really, I will admit, it's like really boilerplatey. That's why I like things like Chimney that kind of remove that additional boilerplate.
Yeah.
Copilot helps a little bit, but it's I think what we really need is some future language that is just better at dealing with these slight variants in data. But
yes,
we don't have that yet.
Right. So let's see what we can do now. All right. So what we're going to want to do is we also need to, anytime we're working with or wanting to work with like running our quill stuff, we need to make sure we've got our context available to us, because it brings in a lot of stuff. It's a combination of that. Will be there, so cool. And what we generally need to do is we're going to, let's see, what does our, I think our insert spell. Oh, you know what? There's something we want to do when we insert a spell. This is a little bit of fun stuff, and I know this is a very common thing people want to do. We can say returning and ID. So if you noticed when we put together our schema here, we have this serial that's kind of just the auto generate, right? So we're going to have an auto generated key, right?
Yeah.
And this is going to actually return that auto generated key. Super helpful, like if you're wanting to, like, if you're needing to like subsequently take that ID and join it with other tables. I think that's a common thing I think people want to do. So that's how you do that in Quill.
Yep.
So, and we're going to use it for our test case too. So we're going to say we have to do this because we want run, but apparently it's shadowed by other run stuff that I think comes from ZIO test. So that's kind of why I'm directly calling on that.
I think it's ZIO app even. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. So run, And oh, this got me earlier. This needs to be assert true, not just assert. Now we should have a ton of red squiggles, which is what's expected.
Amazing. I didn't draw those.
We're missing a data source, so that's super important. Now we're getting into the really finally we've arrived at test containers. So we need a data source, but to have a data source that actually works, we need a running database. So, well, how would we go about doing that? Well, we can actually do this. We can bring in io.github.me.
Hey, that's you.
It's me. ZIO.Testcontainers Postgres, and we'll just do. I think that's all I need. All right. So kind of we'll go ahead and start providing stuff. I'm sure everybody's a wonderful provide that Kit has blessed us with. That's
Yeah.
yes. So we have our container, but that's not right at all.
Zogwart.
And it's live. Okay, cool. So when you do this actually will what this live does. I'm gonna get another thing in here really quick. So
Yeah.
then okay, we want as a set of settings, and settings are you want the defaults usually work pretty well. So what the settings provide for us, is it actually going to take us there? Yeah, so it basically the settings are kind of will be the values that are eventually passed into the Scala test containers, which is the project that's kind of underpins us to be able to do test containers, right? They've kind of provided that. So basically, the default settings are to just look at the Postgres. This is the actual Scala test containers. And what's nice is they've gone ahead and included like what the default database name will be, username, password. This latest is actually the image version. So if you so desire, you can actually alter the Docker image version. It's actually the full tag. And if you want more information on that, you can actually look at the test containers. It's basically just the standard Docker tag. It would be like, Postgres : 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So you could easily override this, but I try to keep things up to date. So yeah, the default will just be, it'll always give you the latest container, which is probably the best way to go unless you have legacy stuff you really need to contend with. But yeah, all this does is it puts those settings into the environment for us, and that is the sole requirement of live. Which, if we look at what live does, basically, what live does, it will take those settings. I still have managed in here. I need to change that to a more appropriate name, since managed isn't make scoped connection, I think is probably what it should be called now. I kind of need to do that. So yeah, what it'll do is it comes down here and basically just kind of within our scope ZIO, it will, this is all test container stuff. It'll start the container up, initialize it, start it, and then when it's done and goes out of scope, it will go ahead and close it. We ignore the error, but we will tap it if it fails. Right. And the nice thing about this is not only does it start up a container and make it available to you, it also.
Really quick observation.
I'm sorry.
I think you might want to be logging that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, crap. You're right. Good one. Go ahead and write an issue for that. Thank you. Good call. But yeah, anyways. And it will also make a connection for you that's immediately usable, put it in the environment, and it'll actually take all the settings from the running container, at least as it's relevant to a RDBMS server, and stick them into this. This is an object within the Testcontainers project called JDBC info. It'll tell you the driver class that's being used, JDBC URL, the username and password. And that's about 90%, that covers 90% of what people's needs are, right? At least for a database, right? So yeah, so that's all this. And we're like, okay, well, that's good. We still don't have a data source. And why do we need a data source? Because run requires a data source when we are running a Quill query. So the quickest way I found to do that right now, find it here real quick, is to actually create something that will do that for us. And here it is. I'm just going to copy it and paste it in the entrance of saving time, and then we can talk about it. So what this actually does, this will actually take the JDBC info, which I just kind of showed you. And this is actually pretty easy and straightforward to do because just the power we have with ZIO and the environment is we're able to take that JDBC info. We create a new PG simple data source. This comes from the Postgres JDBC driver. And we just go ahead, take that information that's already available in JDBC info, URL, username, and password, and just kind of throw it in here. And now what we can do is we can magically go here and do, let's see, JDBC info. It's just locked. There we go. No more red squiggles. And that's it. So now we will come down here.
Might that be something eventually that's sort of insourced?
What do you mean? Oh, this thing here, that piece of utility?
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Okay.
Yes, that's definitely. I'll probably create an issue to actually what I may create an issue just to do that, or actually have each both the MySQL and Postgres, and then any subsequent RDBMS containers actually just put the data source into the environment directly like it does with the connection, or maybe remove connection entirely and just provide the data source, right? So
yeah.
So we could go either way with that, I think. So yeah, why don't we just go ahead now that we're ready to go? Why don't we test this, see what happens? Test. Oh, this is gonna fail. Okay, this will fail.
It's a fail. It'll blow up big time.
Well, let's see. Hold on now.
Oh, because Docker is dead, right?
Yes, very good. I was going to ask if anybody could tell me why it's going to fail.
Docker
That,
dead.
and it's taking forever to compile again. It could be Zoom sucking up all the resources now. Who knows? And this is why I just ordered a new MacBook Pro. So
yeah, nice. Yeah.
All right, this looks like it's gonna.
Cool. Well, I'll stop sharing my videos so I could save you resources and eat some salad.
Thanks. All right. I think it's dead. All right, we're gonna. And it's not gonna. Yes. It's taking a bit longer. There we go. And then we're back.
Ooh, that's a fancy background you got there.
That? Oh yeah, it's from. I don't actually. It's from a video game called Warframe. It's one of my characters, Octavia. She was very cool. Her attacks were all based off of music. So, all right, let's get this back. Apologies for technical difficulty.
Music is a weapon sometimes.
It is a weapon. The thing is it ends up being like a almost like a Dance Dance Revolution for your fingers, because you actually have to like time like your key presses and move her movements to like cause her to do the things. But I'm getting off course. So let's see if we can get this to start back up and then watch it fail. There we go. Compiling for classes. You're going to see a bunch of, and there we go. So why did it fail? Could not find Docker environment. And the error message proves kit correct. So let's go ahead. Manual. So yeah, if you're on Linux, pretty easy. You can just basically install Docker directly. I don't know the level of our audience's experience with like using Docker locally. I mean, I hate to make assumptions, but if you're on Mac or you're on Windows, you will need to download the Docker desktop, which isn't too bad. It just takes up a ton of resources.
Yeah, I generally just quit it when I'm done.
Oh yeah, I just hopefully it'll start up, because if it doesn't, that's kind of a nail in the coffin of the demonstration.
We'll see. I have faith. It takes some time.
Sometimes it takes some time.
We need to have some drama.
I'm gonna
Channel
start.
a little bit.
I'm gonna start closing applications. Let's see, what else can I close? You don't need to be open Spotify. You don't need to be open. Shut off Steam. There we go.
I put a little green check there, so it feels done.
Oh God! Did you do that? Oh,
I tricked you.
oh my God! All right,
I'm so sorry.
it's okay. We'll get it. Kid linked. All right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna.
I'll just. Well, maybe this is not good for your performance to draw.
maybe
might
not
be.
good.
That's not good at all, but it's kind of fun. All right, I'll clear the screen.
You know,
How's Docker doing?
the whale is still spouting. So.
Mm-hmm. Spouting containers.
We can always take.
I like how it says one spell. Warning, one spell.
We're just going to. We're going to do that. We shut down WSL. And Docker is gone. All right, now, let's see.
You can quit Zoom. You just describe it.
Yeah, I don't. Not sure what's up with Docker now. I shut it down once, and now it's. I think it's irritated with me.
Yeah, it's very.
Oh, there we go. That's a good sign. That's what you
No,
want.
I just drew all this actually.
You drew all that.
Drew all
Very
that.
good. Very
Thank you.
good. All right, now if we can get in all of our testing or all of our demonstrations before it decides it's had enough of our funny business. So, all right, you're gonna see a lot of. Oh, what the heck was that? Position 13.
Error release.
Ah, yes. So this is a lot of information that gets spewed out from
A
the
lot of information.
Docker. So I am going, here's another bit of worldly wisdom I can leave you. I can leave our audience with is, I'm going to pull this over, test over here, is you will want this logback XML. This will actually kind of really reduce the amount of noise that gets output by all the things. So this does a really good job of that. So
that's my
again, what's that?
I was just saying my least favorite part of Scala is these inherited patterns from other JVM libraries. Just like, oh
Right.
god,
Yeah.
It's like, because
Really?
everybody likes doing XML configuration files.
yeah, and they have to be put in the right place, name the right thing, and you just kind of have to know it, I guess.
Thanks, Ant. So here, we'll do this one again. It's going to fail again, I promise you. Here, it's a little bit less. I mean, there's still a little bit of noise, but we have a nice little whale. No related spell does not exist. Oh my gosh.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So what's this? That's our table. So relation is the table, right? That's what Postgres likes to call them. So it's like, okay, well, now we've kind of run into an issue. It's like, well, how do we get past that? Well, again, as I kind of stated before, we talked about the flyway migrations. We have something that will do that for us. So we come here and do this. Import IO GitHub.
And Testcontainers getting moved into the ZIO repository, right?
At some point in time, we're going to do that. I need to do that. Thanks for Antonio Morales. He went ahead and moved all the CI stuff from Circle CI to GitHub Actions. So that's one less thing that needs to be kind of worried about that, because I know that's what we use.
Nice.
So we have the DB migration, and that's it, but you don't need all this. So what this will do is then we just put this here. And as I described before, this is backed by Flyway. And if you take all the default things like putting your migration in the DB migrations directory, and your naming convention is things, you won't have to really do anything here. You can just leave it like this and it'll just run, and actually kind of show that to you. So we're gonna go ahead.
One quick question for Adam. Do we have a non-symbolic aspect symbol? Obviously, you could just dot chain this, but I found one awkward case is actually here where you sort of have to wrap the suite.
Yeah, that's kind of, yes, that's kind of, all right, what happened? Relation spell does not exist, so. Oh, it didn't save. There we go. All right, now let's try it. Now.
Yeah, it's probably a little weird looking, but you could do like dot at open parentheses.
Yeah, yes.
Right.
So there we go. Our insert worked. You can actually look here. This is kind of the aspect doing its work, right? It's kind of spinning up. It's
Yeah.
This is the information that was actually got from the test container that was spun up by the test containers that are in the environment. Validated that one migration, which is our one migration that we ran. It creates this flyway schema history. This is how it kind of tracks stuff. So that's the internal plumbing minutia of flyway. Not something you need to know immediately, but if you're going to use flyway, it may be good to familiarize yourself with it. And one of our things is applied, and we've inserted a brand new spell.
Yeah.
We may want to say, it's like, well, you've inserted a spell. How you say you inserted a spell. So it's actual. So we can use the other part of our what we're working on here. We'll just call it Q. We'll do spells. Spell by name. We'll do, we know it's called Fireball. Not Firebell. Ball. Furball. It's not
Furball's
That's a
not
different thing.
That's a different thing.
Giant eats too many trees.
So we do run. go ahead and run that query for us. Now we can actually do some testing here. Say, oh, what this does is this will actually, it's not a good name for it because it's actually a list of spells, right? Because that's kind of the default thing we're going to get back when we call that. It's like your SQL is always kind of a list of things, right? Or an aggregation. So it's never one thing. So we have some spells, and we're going to say our spell size is 1. Oh, yeah, that'll work.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I know everybody can yell. It's like, oh, why are you using head? I'm like, in test cases, a lot of times I am a little bit less on the being strict. So go ahead and.
Also, this will give you a nice error if it is empty. Because the search true will rewrite head to be a nice little assertion thing. Oh yeah, try to change the name Fireball to up above on line 18 to something else. Make it Furball and see what happens.
Cool. All right.
I hope it gets a nice error. Otherwise, I'll have to get to some. Actually, ooh, it may not because we're in Scala 3 and I need to make it as pretty. So never mind. I've just only shown off that it's actually okay.
Pretty.
I mean, it's highlighting the right line. That's nice, but it could be better than that. So,
all right.
Never mind. On Scala 2, it would look so beautiful.
Didn't tickle your fancy like you hoped it would.
Oh.
And we can actually do this. We can do spells.head.id is not equal to spell.id. Is a good inverted validation, right? This would make sure that the auto generation of our
No.
yeah,
There you go.
yeah, I'm used to the old way.
They both
Yeah,
They both
both
work?
but,
Oh, okay. I like to keep consistent. So this is kind of verifying that indeed when we while it has the same name, it has a different ID because remember, we want our IDs generated. So it should have auto-generated it because if you remember the default we were using was 0. So lost my test.
Do.
Oh, that's not right.
So. Oh, the output.
Yeah. Oh, what happened here? Oh, this is very good. This will allow us to talk about some interesting parts again of Quill. It's almost like I'm doing a Quill demo. So Postgres, which is different, which kind of surprised me because I'm a lot more familiar with MySQL. MySQL, even if you pass in a value and it's got an auto-generate field, it will override it with the auto-generate. It won't use the value you pass in. That's not the case with Postgres. If you give it a 0, it'll put in a 0. You give it a -1, it'll put in a -1. So the way we get around that is we'll come over here to SpellDB, and this is part of Quill. We make a inline. I don't know why it does that. It's really annoying that VS Code wants to put those escapes on.
Yeah, I guess it's trying to be clever because it thinks you're using it as a variable name. I'm trying to not be in the namespace, but yeah, that's is that right?
Oh, it's close. I want to do oh my gosh, stop it. It's like I just want it to complete the name.
Oh yeah, that's a little difficult. They added a config setting to IntelliJ where you see both the autocomplete from IntelliJ and the VS Code, and you hit enter to toggle one and tab for the other. So I'm not sure if they have a setting in VS Code as well. Sorry, you see both IntelliJ's and Copilot's autocomplete.
Oh, okay. Yeah. want to make sure I've got this. I've got this written down someplace. So. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. It's not that. It was lowercase. So it's insert meta. And then you do what this does, and it's not super obvious by oh, what's wrong with you?
Inline given? Is
Yeah.
that sad? Not found given, not found inline.
Yeah, okay, I had this before. I thought I changed it, so.
Do you not have to maybe don't give it a name or?
No, this actually should work. Let me just copy it verbatim.
Oh, no name, yeah.
That might be it.
Maybe.
Nope.
We're just confused. Okay. What does it compile if you run it in the terminal? Because given's the word.
It should, because I ran into this problem earlier, and I had to remove the there's a setting that was in the compiler options that looks like it's, oh, what was it called? Like x-x managed source, where it appears it'll constrain you from using Scala 3 specific stuff, so it's still backward compatible. So let's do this.
Can you do inline implicit?
No, it's working. It's
okay.
I think see it pass. I think I just need to re-import metals to pick up the change I have there, or restart it. You never know with metals. There we go. Just needed to be restarted. Well, let's let it compile. But anyways, you can see that insert spells now passed. So back to what this actually does. This basically tells for the spell, when you create a query based on spell, to omit the ID field from the actual SQL insert statement. The insert meta, this is kind of, it doesn't really tell you what it's actually doing, but that's what it does. So that's kind of what allows us to do that. So, but yeah, that gone for a little while. I kind of constrained it to one thing. In the prep work I did a bunch of extra stuff, but I'm not sure we want to start down that path yet, or at any point in time. We could always revisit other things, like possibly at some further point in time, we could talk about like how you use the Kafka test container to, like, kind of maybe exercise your pipelines and your streaming, right? I don't know. You could call, like, you could have a topic call. I guess we could make a topic called classroom, and then you could have wizards learn new spells by pushing stuff into a Kafka topic. You could test it. So.
Well, we did have a couple of questions. So
oh yeah, let's go. Yeah.
So, and one of them was something that I wanted to get to anyway. The first question we got was from Alexi way at the beginning, but for me, there are two main pain points with test containers. I'm not sure if Alexi is referring to this test container or just library or them in general, which is hacking it to make it share the same container between test files, and to make it work with Podman, because their company doesn't want to do desktop licenses. The second one I couldn't solve, and ended up using an embedded implementation instead of the test containers, and I'm very sad about it. Well, I know for a fact, I think, that's not a fact, then I guess, but I have a theory that number one is solved. Can we show off how to maybe make it share this container across test files? Did you get that to work, or is that
I know that exists with the stuff. I think that's a lot of the stuff that Bill did, right, for like the streaming.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff.
You know what? Yeah, maybe it would be actually for that. We can talk about that in general, and more about just sharing layers. Maybe we could do that next week. And
yeah, we can do that. I'd have to look into it. Yeah, I mean, if we want to, we can progress this a little bit more. Well, I'll figure out how to delete from Postgres, because apparently. Nothing. I put it in the raw SQL files. I do it through Quill. It just won't delete stuff. I've even tried truncate tables. So I may have to tap someone with a lot more Postgres knowledge than myself, which could probably be anyone.
Okay, well
You're
that
doing
makes.
pretty well for yourself.
I'm not quite sure what Podman is, but I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
But apparently, if we're using test containers, and I believe Alexei's referring to normal test containers, that Podman is probably a Docker competitor or alternative, and that test containers might just not be set up with Podman, and therefore you're probably not set up with Podman as you're wrapping test containers.
No, I apologize. I have no knowledge of the pod. So
we forgive
like
you.
it's like Podman, then there's Pod People.
Pod People, yep.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers type of thing going on. I think that's what Pod People's from. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
So we have another question as well. We'll just go through the others. So yeah, not sure about Podman. It sounds like we might be ruined for now, but maybe open an issue into normal test containers, or we can write our own test container code. Yes.
So real quick before you ask the question, that is actually something that I'd like to put as a long-term goal for the test containers, ZIO test containers, is totally remove the dependency on Scala test containers and Java test containers, and write as much of the interaction with the low-level Docker API for us to do what we need to do to spin up the curated containers that we support.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe if anyone wants to make ZIO Flyway or something there, or ZIO Migrate, that would be good. No dependencies. So Dmitry Martinov asked, hey guys, any thoughts on local dev experience with test containers? I'd like to set up a shared instance of a container per SPT session. So this is sort of, I think, at the next level.
Okay.
So I think next week we might then see if Bill's down to, or whenever Bill is available, talk about sharing across all of your test files, these layers. But I think this question is asking, like, how do you even keep it per SPT session so you can test multiple times?
So it's interesting. If you look, I think this is kind of a hack and I wouldn't recommend it. But if you kind of look at the test containers README, it would say best practices is to like fork your container, because if you don't fork it, there's two things that besides the container you spin up, there's an additional container called Ryuk that gets spun up that is a Reaper container that will watch for your JVM process to end. When it sees your JVM process end, it knows to end the container that you spun up. But that only happens if you fork, you're forking your test case, because if you're not forking it, you're running within SPT's initial process, right? And or thread, and it never ends, so it will stay out there. The problem is every time you run a test, it spins up another container. So now you run your test twice, you've got 2 containers out there, and then 3 containers, and then 4 containers. So again, you could do that, but then you're relying on yourself to shut down SPT all the way down every time and bring it back up. I think the best solution is kind of what Kit and Adam are talking about, is using the facilities within the new Scala test or ZIO test, where you can have a layer persist throughout the entire, not just your suite, but the entire test run, right?
Yeah. So that's it's hard to hack that kind of stuff. So I don't think we have maybe there's some leads, but I don't know if there's like a 100% solution for that.
The only thing you can do is basically you start your own. I mean, the thing is, it's like, I know this is it's a non-answer, but it's like you start the container up yourself when you get it. The only thing I could think of is then something we could do in test containers is you could give it something that says, you actually have to, interrogate the running container that started outside of, your SPT run, and figure out the information to be able to like provide, like, for instance, like the JDB sim for like knowing what the URL is, what the class name is.
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, if you just use, the normal, even if you don't use test containers at all, and at that point, and just give, basically make a Quill context.
Yep.
Quill layer that creates a data source. Just give it the credentials. Give it the credentials of your containers port and stuff. So yeah.
Yep.
And I'm sure there's some clever thing you can do, but yeah, maybe we could look at more in making that automatic.
and-
That sounds neat.
And the reason why it's
Yeah.
that's the being able to get information from the container is so important with using test containers is because when test container spins up, it does a bunch of like magical Docker stuff, and it gives you it generates the port and stuff like that. So the port's dynamic; it's not always the same. So that's why it's important to have that, to be able to get that URL from the container when it starts up and put it in the environment within JDBC info. So you'll always guaranteed of having the correct port to connect to. And that's with any container that you're going to be getting. That's with the Kafka containers when you're wanting to do producers and consumers. Yeah, if we ever do the Kafka container one, you see it's integrated really nicely with ZIO Kafka, because when it starts up, not only does it start up the ZIO container, it does some quality of life stuff. It gives you a consumer and producer, a ZIO Kafka producer and ZIO Kafka consumer into the environment that you can directly pull into your test case and immediately start using. You don't have to worry about kind of putting together the producer, right, or the consumer settings. Those are all there for you, and then you can just start streaming from there, which is incredibly, it really streamlines testing your Kafka stuff.
So we have one final question, at least that came in when I was tracking, which is, could you have a separate flyway script for tests that populate the DB with some test data? And I think that's probably what's up with those empty parentheses there. Could you chat about that?
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, this is really cool. So let's do, let's see if we can do that. Let's do this. Let's see, we'll do this right here. We'll do new folder, and we'll call it test or test migration. Let's just call it that. Let's kind of show you this. File v1.1 2 underscores.
Oh, spells.
If I can spells it right.
Hard to spell.
Oh,
Hey.
okay. Was it? You're gonna laugh at me because I'm not gonna know my insert into.
This is where
spell.
Copilot is pretty strong. Generally.
Was it? Do we? How do I tell it just which? We don't want values.
Expelliarmus.
Expelliarmus. Sure, why not? And it would be a level 1 spell if I remember correctly. I think Harry was kicking that one out.
Pretty early.
Here, if you go to your initialize and like copy paste that code in here very quickly, and then just make a comment saying like create fixture data, and then that's what I've just like copy paste this or select all that, paste it into.
Are we cheat? Are we gonna?
Yeah, just like what it. Because now it'll create them with the actual schema. So just paste this in here and then delete that obviously afterwards.
Okay.
And then just, so on line 9, delete line 9 and just make a comment saying, you know, insert fixture data, like insert 5 spells or something. But as a comment.
Like so yeah, this is what I want, right?
Oh yeah, but first delete this line, then do -- space, insert 5 spells, and then make a new line.
Insert.
And then
insert what?
5 spells. Just to command it, essentially. We're just telling it what to do. Yeah, and then make a new line.
Okay.
There you go. Okay, cool. So now hit tab.
All right, there.
Did it do 5?
Oh, it did it right too. It excluded the ID. Good on you.
Maybe go hit return and see what it does for next line.
Yeah, though it did make it Expelliarmus. Yeah, and then
I don't care. I mean.
All right.
Yeah, this is fine. True. It's an example. Oh no, it got tiny. All right. Sometimes it listens more accurately and will actually create 5, but we just need 1, I guess, for the purposes of this.
Expelliarmus. Was it?
It's Expelliarmus. Removes the arms.
Knock your teacup out of your hand. It'd be like whoosh, and
teacup breaks.
So I don't know if there, so there you go. All right, so we could do that.
Yeah, it's perfect. And then just delete the create stuff.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that won't like that.
But that tells it at least what to generate based off of, which is nice.
All right, so and then what we can do here is those are both in that. So let's see, where is our spec? Let's close out all this stuff and just get it out of our way. Go. All right, so what we can do here, this first attribute is like, I would say would be the most common thing, and this is, I think why Kit wanted to kind of show this is what we can do is we can override, like the default location is db/migrations, right? But, or migration. So what we can do is we want to add back, we want to add db migration, because if we don't do that, it won't hit that one. And then we also want to do test. Is that right? Did I spell it right? All spells, test migration. Yeah, looks right. Okay. And then we can do spells by name. Oh, I don't know how to spell that. No, not Excalibur. Wrong IP. All right, there we go.
Nice.
Oh, I need to add that to my dictionary. There we go.
Perfect.
Let's see. Okay, Explorer Plus. Let's see. We'll just go.
Nice.
There we go. All right, let's see if this works.
Come on, thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most spells initialized, and it passed.
Awesome.
So yeah, you could do that. That's a good way.
Very cool.
And actually, it was interesting that was mentioned. I was, you can actually, instead of doing a version number, you can actually do something. You can put the word R in Flyway infers that that's a repeatable migration. It will run that every single time after all the numbered migrations. So yeah, that's how I was trying to initialize the database and clear all the tables, was adding a delete commands into that to kind of clear each one, but it wasn't working. That's back to my, I can't get delete to work in Postgres, which is embarrassing, but it is what it is.
Immutable. Well, can we scroll back down just to where you set that, just to show that there we, okay, cool.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So, it's lazy of me, but if you go look at the test cases for the migration aspect, it shows you how to use all the different combinations of how to point it to different, because you can actually also point it to a physical file system by, like, if this was at the root, like you could do file : like that. If you had DB migration in the root of your file system, right?
Nice.
It would look for it there.
So this says resources.
Instead of like trying to like look through your class paths.
Well, that is super cool. Thank you, Scott, so much for making it library, and it's definitely very, very useful. So everyone, give it a shot. Open issues, open PRs, do your thing, or just use it and enjoy it if you need that kind of thing. But it's really nice to have.
We can do a combination shout out to Testcontainers. Aren't y'all using Testcontainers within the ZIO Pet Store application that we're working on?
Yeah, and ZIO Pet Clinic. Yeah, so we'll probably talk about that in a
Yeah, we got.
Did I let the cat out of the bag? Oh
no,
yeah.
we've been soft promoting the pet clinic.
Yes, and pet clinics deal with cats leaving bags all the time. Hey, so yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, but that was really fun, and I think we got through all the questions. But if we didn't, just please throw them in the Discord, and we'll be sure to get to them later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'll be putting out the more full-featured version of this. That was kind of that I used to like do this. That has like the full model laid out and stuff like that. That's actually up in my GitHub, just under Scott Weaver / Zogwarts. So
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and we could definitely
Nice.
with it.
steal this repo for the shared layer demo
Yeah.
next week. So that'll be great. Yeah. So
Yeah, if we
build.
want to do a shared layer, or if we want to do like revisit Hogwarts sometime in the future, and
You mean Zogwarts?
Zogwarts, you're right. Sorry, strike that. Fix that in the notes, please. We want to visit Zogwarts in the future. We could look at building a classroom, which is basically just a stream of spells being shot at the learning wizards, right, through Kafka, and we could do Kafka containers. So.
That'd be awesome.
Great.
Thank you so much, Scott.
No problem.
Thanks.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.